Ed's girlfriend Lisa's birthday was coming up, and he really wanted to do something nice for her. At first he thought of taking her on a trip to the sea, but he wouldn't have enough money saved up for even the cheapest hotel. After all, he'd have to take into account the cost of the flight back and forth for 2 people, plus during the vacation they would also spend money. Ed could not afford such a pleasure. So he started looking for cheaper and closer options, but he couldn't find anything good. In the evening, when he went to the store to get something for dinner, he saw an ad for a cabin in the woods on a pole. The guy called the number and discussed the details with the landlord. It turned out that it was a rather large and spacious cabin. It could even be called a cottage. And the price was ridiculous. The landlord charged pennies for 2 weeks' stay. Ed agreed without a second thought and booked the cabin. When Ed told Lisa about the trip, she was just overjoyed and immediately began to pack her things. On the internet, unfortunately, the guy found no information about this house. He wanted to see photos, read reviews, but could not find anything. He had to go at his own risk. They had a couple days before they left and were actively packing and discussing how they were going to spend their time. They had so much planned for themselves that they doubted whether they would be able to do it all in time. Early in the morning they got into the car and drove out. It was going to be a long drive, so they stocked up on quick snacks and drinks. They drove for about 10 hours and then they turned into the forest. The forest was very dense, and it seemed that nothing could be seen behind the branches of the trees. It was starting to get dark and it was getting a little creepy. But at last they reached the right place. The cottage really did look like a cottage. The owner did not deceive them. Panoramic windows, a large terrace, and the exterior itself looked very expensive. Ed was surprised they'd gotten the house for almost nothing. Maybe the landlord was taking pity on the young couple. They went in, chose the bedroom they liked best, and began to sort out their things. Afterward, Ed made dinner for 2, got a bottle of wine, and they sat in the living room watching the big TV over the fireplace. The next morning they planned to go for a walk in the woods near the house and go to a small lake nearby. Ed hated hiking and didn't really like walking, unlike Lisa. The guy knew that she liked it, so he did not object. After all, it was her holiday and he would do what she chose. When they went out into the woods for a walk, Ed often stopped and slowed her down as he was tired. His body was totally unprepared for hiking. After half an hour of walking, the guy noticed that Lisa hadn't said anything yet during that time, but he thought she was just enjoying nature. After about an hour, though, he did decide to start a dialogue. Eddie offered to go home as he was already very tired. Lisa nodded with a little disappointment and they walked back. As they walked home, Ed was lagging a little behind the girl as he was exhausted, while Lisa had never been out of breath. But then he thought she started to say something up ahead. When he caught up with her, he heard her mumbling something, but he couldn't make out any words. Ed asked what she was talking about, and Lisa, surprised that he had caught up with her. She told Ed to relax and take his time. She would try to walk slower. And then the girl added that she hadn't said anything and she'd been quiet for like a couple hours. Ed decided that she was tired and it was just thinking out loud. Upon reaching home, Lisa immediately went up to her room. Ed decided that she had gone to wash up, and he went to make dinner. When he finished cooking, he called out to Lisa, but heard nothing in response. Then he called out again if she was feeling well, again no response. Then he went up to the second floor and went to their bedroom. The door was closed and he knocked. The girl opened after a few minutes. Lisa's face frightened the guy. Her eyes were wide open and the whites were slightly pink. He began to worry about her health and asked how she was feeling, but she just replied that everything was fine and she was just tired. So he took her out to dinner and then went downstairs. In the end, she was gone for a couple hours and dinner had already got cold. When the girl came downstairs, she ate a quick meal standing up and then got ready to go back to her room. Ed stopped her and asked her why she was acting like that and if everything was okay. The answer made the guy stiffen. She said everything was fine and then added that he is the best big brother ever. Afterwards ran off to her room. Ed could have taken it as a joke, but she didn't look like she was joking. He decided to call his relatives and ask them for some advice, but there was no connection here at all. After an hour he felt tired and went upstairs, but the bedroom door was locked and inside he heard some scratching and something akin to growling. This startled him and he knocked. After that the sounds quieted down. Ed told the girl that he was going to bed, and she said good night, and then she added that she hoped he'd picked a nice room. There was something wrong with her, but he decided to let her sleep, maybe she'd be better in the morning. Then he went into the next room. Late at night, Ed heard a strange rumbling noise coming from their bedroom, so he threw on a t-shirt and hurried down the hall. As he approached the room, the sounds only grew stronger. He started knocking, and the door immediately gave way, which turned out to be unlocked. What he saw there scared him a lot. The girl was sitting and banging her head against the wall. When he approached her he saw that she was doing it with a wide and frightening smile on her face. Her entire forehead was bruised and bloodshot and her eyes were red. He looked at the wall and saw that it was all peeled off. The girl had scratched it with her fingernails. Ed immediately said they were leaving, as she obviously needed help. The girl said she wanted to have time to play snowballs first. Ed said that it was summer and there was no snow outside. He wasn't talking anymore, he was screaming. He was in a panic. The girl stretched her crazy smile again and then ran outside. Ed didn't have time to grab her and ran after her. But it was as if Lisa had vanished. He was really scared for her, since she didn't know the area and could easily get lost in such a state. So the guy took his phone and went to the road. He tried to catch a connection and call for help. As he approached the road, he finally managed to catch the network. But the phone immediately started vibrating with missed calls from his mom. Ed called her. She quickly picked up the phone and was obviously in tears. The guy asked her why she was so worried, since it hadn't been more than a day since they'd left. The mother did not discuss anything and just asked him to send her coordinates, which he did. When she arrived, she hugged him tightly and then pushed him into the car. As soon as they drove off, the guy noticed that they were going towards the city and told his mother to turn around because Lisa was still out there. But the mother didn't say anything. So Ed started talking louder, convincing her that a girl shouldn't be left alone. The mother only replied that he shouldn't disappear like that without warning. He said that they'd only been gone 24 hours. His mother's answer shocked him. She said he had been gone for over 2 weeks and she didn't understand how he survived at all. He replied that it just couldn't be, because it's only been 1 day. Then his mother turned the rearview mirror in his direction and asked him to look. In the mirror he saw a man in tattered clothes with a giant layer of dirt. He saw 2 weeks of unshaven skin on his face and dirt with oodles of twigs stuck in his hair. Ed was returned home, and then it was decided to send him to a mental institution to be under the care of doctors. After all, at home he refused to drink his medication and often ran away. His girlfriend Lisa died a year ago, falling off a cliff during another hike. After this incident, Ed began to rapidly go crazy. He began to see her everywhere and in everyone. There were times when he'd attack girls, seeing them as his dead lover. The doctor prescribed him pills for hallucinations, but Ed refused to live in a world without her, so he tried not to drink them at all. Now he is under the care of doctors in one expensive clinic. Now the doctor always makes sure that Ed drinks his pills, but sometimes the guy still manages to hide them under his tongue and then spit them out, so that at least one more time to see her.